In a quiet Mississippi town where people left their doors unlocked and neighbors waved from their porches, lived a 14-year-old girl named Carly Gregg. She looked like any other teenager. Soft smile, long brown hair, and a phone always in her hand. Teachers said she was smart, maybe a little shy. But behind that quiet smile was a storm no one could see. Carly lived with her mother, Michelle Gregg, and her stepfather. Michelle worked hard and wanted the best for her daughter. Friends said Michelle was loving but strict. She wanted Carly to stay away from trouble, focus on school, and follow house rules. Carly, like many teens, wanted more freedom, more friends, more privacy, more control over her life. At school, Carly had started to drift. Her grades slipped, and she argued more at home. Michelle took away her phone a few times, hoping it would help her focus. To Carly, it felt like punishment. To Michelle, it was love in disguise. Everything changed on the night of August 15th, 2023. It was summer, hot and still, the kind of night when even the crickets went quiet. Inside the Gregg home, an argument broke out. No one knows exactly what started it, but neighbors later said they heard shouting, angry, sharp words cutting through the silence. Moments later, something unthinkable happened. Police say Carly went to her room, took a gun that belonged to her stepfather, and shot her own mother. Michelle Gregg, 40 years old, never had a chance to cry for help. The small house that once held laughter was now filled with silence and shock. But what came next shocked everyone even more. Instead of running or hiding, Carly called her friend. Reports say she even invited the friend over to see the body. When officers arrived, they found Michelle dead, and Carly calm, sitting nearby as if she didn't fully understand what had happened. The town of Lucedale, Mississippi could not believe it. News spread fast. Teen kills mother in cold blood. Parents hugged their children tighter. Teachers wept, and the question echoed through every home. Why would a 14-year-old do this? Carly was arrested that night. The police report described her as quiet, polite, and almost blank when questioned. At first, people thought maybe there had been an accident, some kind of misunderstanding. But soon the truth was clear. Carly had planned it. She had even searched online about killing. As the sun rose the next morning, flashing police lights faded from the Gregg home, but the memory of what happened there never would. A daughter had taken her mother's life, and in that moment, her own childhood ended forever. After her arrest, the town of Lucedale, Mississippi fell silent. People still drove by the Gregg house slowly, shaking their heads in disbelief. It was hard to imagine that just days before, this had been a normal home, and now it was a crime scene that made national headlines. Inside a small police interview room, 14-year-old Carly Gregg sat across from investigators. She wore a simple hoodie, her long hair falling over her face. Officers described her voice as soft, calm, almost empty. She didn't cry, she didn't shout, she just stared at the table as they asked her what happened. And then, in the quietest tone, she said the words no one expected. "I shot my mom." Detectives were stunned by how easily the words came out. When they asked why, Carly said something that broke the hearts of everyone listening. She said she was tired of her mom always controlling her life. She told police about the argument that night, how her mother had taken her phone again, saying she was grounded and couldn't see her friends. Carly felt trapped and angry, and in a split-second decision, she took her stepfather's gun from the bedroom. Carly described how she pulled the trigger and froze, realizing what she had done. There were no signs of panic or fear, just silence. Then she called a friend. Investigators later discovered that the friend thought Carly was joking until she arrived and saw the truth for herself. Michelle Gregg lying motionless on the floor. That friend immediately called 911.
When officers arrived, Carly didn't resist. She quietly said, "She's in there," pointing toward the body. It was one of the most chilling arrests in Mississippi that year. As the case unfolded, more shocking details emerged. Police found Carly's internet search history, questions about how to kill someone, and what happens after you commit murder. Prosecutors used this as proof that she planned everything. Because of the brutality and planning, Carly was charged as an adult. The courtroom was packed when her first hearing began in 2023. Reporters filled the benches, and people from the community came to see the girl they once knew. Carly walked in wearing a jail uniform, her wrists in handcuffs. She didn't look up once. When the judge asked if she understood the charges, she nodded. She spoke only once, saying, "Yes, sir." Her face showed no emotion. Some called her cold, others believed she was simply lost, too young to understand the weight of her actions. As her confession played in court, even the judge paused for a moment. You could feel the pain in the room, the sound of quiet sobs from family, and the deep sighs of officers who had daughters of their own. By the end of the trial, one thing was clear. This wasn't just a crime. It was a tragedy that destroyed two lives. A mother who loved too hard, and a daughter who broke under the weight of teenage anger and confusion. The only question left was what punishment would fit such a heartbreaking story. It was May 2024, nearly 9 months after the murder. The courthouse in Lucedale, Mississippi was packed once again. Reporters, townspeople, even old school friends came to see what would happen to Carly Gregg, the teenage girl who killed her own mother. Carly, now 15, walked into the courtroom wearing an orange jumpsuit. Her hair was shorter, her face pale. She looked much older than she did the night of the murder. As she sat down, she glanced toward the gallery, rows of people she once knew, but no one met her eyes. When the judge entered, the room went silent. The prosecutor described Carly's actions as planned, deliberate, and heartless. He showed evidence, her online searches, her calm phone call after the shooting, and the text messages where she told a friend she wasn't scared. The room was heavy with disbelief. Then came Carly's defense attorney. He didn't deny the crime. Instead, he spoke softly about her youth, her emotional struggles, and the pressure of living in a strict home. He said, "Carly is not a monster. She is a child who made an irreversible mistake." Finally, the judge asked if Carly wanted to speak. For a moment, she didn't move. Then she stood up, trembling slightly, and spoke in a low, shaky voice. "I'm sorry. I wish I could take it back. I miss my mom every day." Some people in the courtroom began to cry. Even one of the officers who had worked on the case looked away, trying to hide his emotion. But the judge had a duty to uphold the law. He said, "This is a tragedy that can never be undone." Then he announced the sentence: life in prison. Carly's body went still. She didn't scream or cry. She just lowered her head and whispered something no one could hear. Later, officers said it sounded like, "I deserve it." At that moment, a quiet sadness filled the room. The girl who once dreamed of growing up, making friends, and living a normal life was now facing the rest of her years behind bars. Outside the courthouse, people were divided. Some believed justice had been served, that taking a life should cost a life of freedom. Others said a 15-year-old child shouldn't spend forever in prison. News stations across the country replayed her image, a small teenager in an oversized jumpsuit, walking down a hallway in chains. In prison, Carly reportedly spends most of her time reading and writing letters that never get sent. She told one reporter that she dreams of her mom every night, and that in those dreams, her mother forgives her. The story of Carly Gregg is more than just a crime. It's a warning, a heartbreak, and a lesson about anger, control, and how one moment can destroy everything. In the end, there were no winners, only pain. A mother lost her life, and a daughter lost her future.